I sat at the edge of the kitchen table, the linoleum cool against my legs as I stared at the worn wood beneath my hands. My heart raced, the weight of anger pooling in my chest like a storm cloud ready to burst. My brother was sitting across from me, casually leaning back in his chair, a smug grin plastered across his face. The smell of my mother's lasagna wafted in from the oven, a scent that usually brought comfort, but today felt more like a taunt. I could hear my father in the other room, booming laughter echoing through the corridors of our family home as they talked about the upcoming launch of my brother's side of the business. It was always about him, about the things he did right, while I just felt like a shadow lurking in the background, barely acknowledged. "Can you believe it?" my brother said, tapping the table with his fingers, a mocking rhythm that pushed me closer to the edge. "Dad says I'm the one destined to take over the entire operation. He even told me the other day that I have the Midas touch. What a compliment, right?" He chuckled, but there was a sharpness in the sound that made my teeth clench. The more he flaunted their praise, the more I felt like I existed in a world detached from my own family. "What a great opportunity," I managed to say, my voice half-hearted and thin as if the words could not carry the burden of my true feelings. I looked at him, trying to gauge if he even noticed the hurt behind my indifference. "One day, he'll let you write your own paycheck." The words fell from my lips, heavier than I intended, echoing my bitter truth. "Sure will," he exclaimed, leaning forward, the arrogance radiating from him like heat from a fire. "I'll be running the show while you're stuck doing the same old grunt work you love so much. What do they call it? Family values." He leaned back and laughed, and I could feel my hands shaking, crumpling the paper napkin clenched tightly in my grip. "Dad appreciates my hard work." "I keep this place running," I shot back, but my own voice cracked under the pressure of my emotions spilling out. I hadn't expected to feel so small next to him, but there I was, shivering beneath the crushing weight of his comments. "You just waltz in for the glory. Do you feel bad about it? Because I don't," he replied, an insufferable smirk still on his face while my father's laughter intensified from the living room, blending with the smell of bubbles bursting in the lasagna. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, the anger boiling, mixing with an unmistakable sense of betrayal. "Do you ever think maybe you should share some of that wealth?" I spat out before I had even fully processed the thought. The unexpected turn of my words silenced the room momentarily, and I felt the weight of the air shift as if the kitchen itself held its breath. "Share. Inheritances are made for the deserving." "You've made your bed, now you can lie in it," he replied, the shift in his tone sending a chill down my spine. I could see he was enjoying my discomfort, feeding off my silence, which just made my heart pound louder. My father's disdain echoed in my mind like a malignant ghost, and I struggled to keep my composure. Just then, my mother walked in with a fresh pot of lasagna. Her smile brightened the room, but I could see the way it faltered the moment she sensed the tension between us. "Dinner is ready, you two." "What's with the long faces?" she asked, her voice cheerful yet strained, an undertone of worry creeping into her words. I felt the plea in her eyes to keep the peace, but my brother was already picking up the fork, grinning like he had just won the lottery. "Just talking about the future, Mother. You know, the usual stuff." His tone dripped with sarcasm as he fixed me with a piercing glare that felt both challenging and triumphant. It took everything inside me not to snap back, to unleash my hurt, the way he reveled in my pain. I smiled tightly as my mother moved around the table, carefully plating the lasagna, her polished etiquette a stark contrast to the raw emotions swirling between us. "Isn't it wonderful how your brother is doing so well? He has such big plans ahead," she said, oblivious or perhaps unwilling to acknowledge the fraying nerves in the room. The tension crackled like static electricity as my insides churned with frustration. "Yeah, wonderful," I muttered under my breath, but it was loud enough for my mother to hear. Her eyes darted towards me, eyebrows raised in surprise at my tone. "You always were apt to get what you really wanted, weren't you?" The words slipped out before I could catch them, a hammer coming down with full force. "What's that supposed to mean?" My brother shot back, his fork still poised above his plate, hesitation freezing him in place. "I've earned my spot in this family, unlike some." The innocence in his voice was replaced by a barbed edge, and I could feel my mother's gaze shift, a flicker of realization dawning on her. "You both need to stop this," my mother said firmly, trying to keep the peace where it was already shattered. "You are brothers. You should be supporting each other." The last word hung in the air like a laugh track accompanying a sad sitcom. I wanted so desperately to scream that he was not my brother, he was my rival. There was no support anywhere in this house, merely a hierarchy that favored his every move. "I don't need support," my brother replied dismissively, waving his fork as if it could cut through my words, cutting me instead. "What I need is my title. I need our father's approval. That is everything to me." He bit his lip and then glanced at me, a knowing smile enveloping his face. Too bad that is reserved for me and not for anyone else around here. I felt the heat rise to my face, the unfairness of it all coursing through me like fire. But I work harder. I put in the hours every day when you didn't lift a finger. The revelation forced its way out of my lips, a moan against the ever-tightening grip of my fury. I am the one who keeps this family in business. The words fell into a thick silence, the kind that made my heart pound painfully against my rib cage. My father's laughter had turned into muffled voices coming closer, and I knew he would arrive any moment, his presence always commanding the room when he spoke. "If you cannot shoulder that responsibility, you should step aside and let those who can step up," my brother replied coolly, anger simmering beneath the thin skin of his perfect facade. "No one is stepping aside, especially not for you," I retorted, my voice trembling with rage. My palms pressed tightly against my knees as I fought the urge to throw the plate in front of me against the wall. "I have poured my life into this family just like you, but somehow I am the one left less than." The door swung open, and my father strode in, all confidence with a nugget of gold around his neck, clearly a symbol of his achievements, a constant reminder of what I could never attain. He paused, noticing the charged atmosphere, and I could feel my body freeze as his eyes darted between us. "What is going on here?" he asked, his voice gravelly and authoritative, commanding respect even when I felt anything but. "Just a little brotherly banter, right?" my brother said, effortlessly putting on the mask of innocence. He nodded toward me, the devilish gleam in his eyes sharpening. "But honestly, you might need to talk with her about her future in the company." "I don't think it's what she wants anymore." He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, fully at ease. My heart raced as my father turned to me, and I could see the flicker of disapproval already creeping into his expression. "What's wrong?" he demanded, his voice shifting to that low growl that sent shivers down my spine. "If you have something to say, now is the time." The words threatened to get choked in my throat, and I felt myself go pale under his piercing gaze. My mother placed a gentle hand on my back, urging me to speak, but the fear of being cut off and belittled once again clung to me like chains. "Just tell him," my brother taunted dryly, a smirk plastered across his face. "You might as well ask for a raise while you are at it. But then again, why ask for something you'll never receive?" I felt overwhelmed, trapped between my brother's mocking confidence and my father's expectation, that gnawing bitterness spiraling dangerously close to the surface. My chest tightened as tears welled up, and I forced myself to swallow back the emotions clawing at my throat. "I hate being treated this way," I finally said, a whisper too quiet to fill the room. My father's eyes narrowed, and I could feel the tension shift, settling like a heavy blanket over my shoulders. "Are you suggesting I don't appreciate you? That's not what you said the last time I offered you a way into the business." "Going to need more than a way in," I said softly, but I felt steel underpinning my words this time, a moment of empowerment boiling just beneath the surface. "What I need is respect." "I do not have time for this," he said, turning abruptly. "I expect you to put in the effort without your constant whining. You've always been the one to take a step back, letting your brother shine in the limelight." "Maybe if I stopped working behind the scenes, you would notice me more," I snapped, each word dripping with equal parts defiance and pain. The realization struck me, feeding into the growing tide of rebellion swirling inside. "I'm done living in your shadow." He turned back towards me, and for a heartbeat, I thought I could sense a hint of something different in his eyes, perplexity, or maybe an inkling of regret. But just as quickly, the moment was swallowed by a shout that echoed off the walls. "Enough." I froze, the sound vibrating through me. There it was, the finality of his voice, like a slamming door that shattered my resolve. My brother's mocking laughter filled the air, escaping his lips like a breath of relief, clearly relishing my utter defeat. "Go ahead and test him, go on," he whispered just loud enough for only me to hear, cruelty dripping in every syllable. I felt the tears rise again as I closed my eyes, willing them not to fall. I refused to give them the satisfaction of seeing my pain. I refused to be that person they thought I had always been, the footnote in their selfish narrative. "Dinner is ready, and so is your future if you choose to take it. Don't stand in your brother's way," my father said dismissively, turning away to leave me grappling with the storm inside. I expect better from you. As they walked out of the room, leaving me behind, I felt something shift inside. A determination was rising from the ashes of my defeat. I would no longer be just a footnote. I would rewrite my narrative, and something deep inside whispered that this was only just the beginning of the story I was meant to tell. And as I sat there, a meal untouched and dreams weighing on my shoulders, I knew this was far from over. I needed a plan, a way to reclaim my identity. My father's ideal son had no idea what was coming for him. The thought sent shivers through me, igniting a fire in my spirit. Our paths were entwined, but mine was about to take a turn down the road less traveled. I inhaled deeply, taking the moment to steel my resolve. It was time to show them all just how much I was capable of. And maybe, just maybe, I would finally earn the recognition I had worked for all along. I stood in the softly lit conference room, the air thick with the smell of polished wood and the lingering scent of old coffee. A heavy wooden table sat in the middle, ancient yet proud, bearing witness to too many family meetings filled with laughter and occasionally, strife. I could feel the weight of tradition pressing down on my shoulders, but the expectations this year felt different. This year, I was not just organizing, I was confronting. As the leading organizer of our annual family events, my duty had always been to provide joy, but now I found myself tangled in something much darker. The financial reports glared at me from across the table like a hostile jury, glaring numbers that distorted the truth I had once revered. Last year, my brother had reported a profit of $350,000. I took a deep breath and braced myself, remembering the extravagant celebration that followed. A celebration that was a parade of excess, where glimmering champagne flowed like water, and a 5-tier cake almost overshadowed the elaborately decorated penthouse. My sister had donned an elegant gown that shimmered under the golden lighting, while the rest of us stood watching, confused by how the extravagance could possibly correlate with our actual earnings. I felt a tug in my gut, the sickening sensation of a secret being gnawed at by the truth as thick as a New York winter snow. I tried to shake it off, but the more I examined the reports, the more the dread mounted. There were discrepancies I could no longer overlook. "It doesn't add up," I muttered under my breath, running my fingers across the cold, glossy surface of the reports, desperate for clarity. The tension simmered within me, the kind that demands action, igniting a small flame of courage. Today would not just be another simple meeting. It would mark the beginning of revealing the truth. With my heart pounding, I crossed to the other side of the table, where my brother sat, his posture relaxed as he lounged against the chair, casually scrolling through his phone. His nonchalance was infuriating. I cleared my throat, forcing a calm demeanor to mask the storm brewing inside me. "Can we talk about the budget for the last event?" I started gently, wanting to coax him into awareness, hoping to awaken any shards of conscience buried within. He barely glanced up, the blue light from his phone illuminating his features in a way that felt almost cartoonish. "Budget? What's there to talk about? I mean, we mobbed the town with our last event, didn't we?" His voice dripped with an overconfident bravado as a smile broke out across his face. "There were balloons, champagne, and a freaking fireworks show," he chuckled, the sound infuriating, as if the laughter held the answer to my agony. "Those were amazing, yes." I hesitated, the sound of enchanting music from the celebration echoing in my mind, but the vision was quickly overshadowed by the reality of the numbers before me. "But the report shows." I trailed off, trying to find the right words in a storm filled with anger and disappointment. "We reported profits of $350,000, but the costs for the celebration tallied up to over $450,000. Instantly, his grin faltered, eyes narrowing like a predator, and for a flash I thought he might actually care. It lasted barely a heartbeat before he scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. "Oh, come on, numbers are subjective. You know how this business works. The celebrations keep the family close. Trust me, these people, they remember the extravagance," he exclaimed, leaning in, his voice booming with a fierce pride. "It doesn't matter if they remember," I almost shouted, my veins racing with frustration. "What matters is the facts. We are operating at a loss. You can't just spend money as if it grows on trees. This is our family business." My voice cracked under the weight of emotion, a blend of desperation and anger simmering beneath the surface. He straightened up, the laughter twisting into a haughty sneer. "You should be thanking me for keeping this business alive. Without events like that, we'd be nothing. The people would lose interest and we would crumble into obscurity. Those words hit me, piercing through my carefully constructed armor. Keeping it alive, is that what you think you're doing? I asked, my voice low as if speaking against an unforgiving current. You're burying us, you're robbing us blind. He straightened, arching an eyebrow, the amusement in his expression beginning to drain away. Robbing you blind, you're being dramatic. Just because you're not the one in charge does not mean you have a say. Father chose me for a reason. There it was, the echo of our father's favoritism, showering him with a sense of entitlement that made bile rise in my throat. Chosen over me, right? I seethed, gripping the edge of the table for support, my hands shaking. You wouldn't dare to share that throne, would you? It's always about you. The memory of our father's disappointing words replayed in my mind. You are my success, he once said to my brother. My heart raced as I considered the truth, the suffocating knot in my stomach forming again. I deserve a share too, I whispered, my voice trembling under rising emotions. His laughter now carried an edge that felt like a knife slicing through the air. A share. Honey, you'll get what's left after I take my cut. That's how this works in the real world. You should know better by now. The words stabbed through me, igniting a fury that turned sweet betrayal into a suffocating darkness. I had always tried to be the nice one, the one who molded the family events together despite our differences, and here he was, spitting venom in my face. My entire life had felt like a shadow to his bright flame. I took a deep breath, cleaning my thoughts in the raging storm of my heart. I felt a shift. I was not going to let this stand any longer. Stop hiding behind our father's name, I said, my voice steadier now, growing firm. This isn't about him. You think you're so clever, prancing around like some king. You're treating us like pawns in a game you've rigged. I stood straight, fists clenching at my sides, determination flooding my veins. We are his family, not your personal money source. You'll answer for this. His eyes widened briefly, a flicker of genuine surprise flickering across his features, but he quickly masked it with feigned amusement, rolling his eyes. I can't take you seriously when you're acting like this. Don't you see you're only embarrassing yourself? The weight of his words crashed down around me, but I could feel the tide shifting inside me. I am not going to let you bully me anymore, I declared, each word ringing clearer than the last. Enough is enough. As I turned away, poised to walk out, the air felt charged, crackling like static electricity. The silence grew thick, every second stretching into an eternity of unspoken words. Just as I reached the door, I caught a glimpse of his expression, one that left me breathless and filled with dread. It was a mix of humor and irritation, but also a spark of something ominous that sent shivers racing down my spine. Run away, little sister. I'm sure you'll feel better hiding behind your reports. Just remember the throne, it's not going anywhere. Where do you think it leads when you're ready to take a seat? His voice was calm, but there was a ruthlessness in his tone that made my heart race. With a deep breath, I pushed the door open and stepped into the corridor, the heavy wood swinging shut behind me. I could barely hear the echo of his taunting laughter, but it reverberated inside me like a dull thud. I paused for a moment, the hardened resolve starting to thaw the icy grip of fear in my chest. My hands were still shaking, but I pressed on. I was tired of being overlooked, tired of feeling powerless. The revelation of his deception thrummed inside me, echoing louder with each pulse of righteous anger. As I moved down the hall, the room behind me felt like more than just a closed door. It felt like a mark of change, a threshold that had been crossed. I had confronted the reality, and the conflict that surged within me transformed from sickening dread into a fierce determination. I was unwilling to simply recount numbers and useless complaints. I decided I would do something about it. A surge of clarity washed over me as I reached the staircase. The sun poured through the tall windows, illuminating the path ahead like an inviting embrace. The vision of my family gathering, one that I had worked tirelessly to create, now tasted sour. I would draw the line here. Pride and greed would not dictate my family's legacy. With every step down the stairs, I knew that revealing the truth was only the beginning. The sweet taste of battle brewed on the horizon, filling my heart with a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. The game was on, and I glanced back one last time, the weight of the confrontation hanging between us like a thin thread. I was determined to weave a different narrative, one of justice, courage, and ultimately, revenge. The stakes had been raised, and I could hear it in my brother's last words, the mocking venom like a ghost haunting me. Just remember the throne, it's not going anywhere. I stepped outside into the world, uncertain what lay ahead but fueled with purpose. Today would mark the turning point in this tangled web of family lies. I would no longer be the spectator of my brother's reckless disregard for our family. The feeling of hope ignited my resolve, a flame dancing fiercely against the cold realities that awaited me. As I took that step, I felt the thrill of retribution prickling at the back of my mind. The mighty shift I would create would not go unnoticed. One way or another, I would reclaim my space. With or without the throne, the air in the living room felt thick with the weight of grief as I stared at the crumbling walls of our once happy home. The scent of old wood mixed with the lingering notes of my father's cologne made my stomach churn, reminding me not only of the man we had lost, but of the home he had built with so much love. My brother stood near the mantel, his figure blocking the flickering glow of the fireplace, transforming the moment into something cold and dark. I could still hear the dull echo of my mother's quiet sobs in the background, her grief palpable, yet there was a different kind of tension simmering in the air. It wrapped around us like a thin fog that refused to lift. "Are you really doing this?" I finally managed to say, my voice shaky, but firm. My heart raced as I felt the gravity of the situation sinking in. The inheritance money was not just about numbers. It was our father's legacy, our family's lifeblood. I watched my brother's face closely for any hint of remorse, but all I saw were sharp angles of greed. "It's what he would have wanted," my brother retorted, his voice cold as ice, laced with a chilling certainty that made my skin crawl. "We need to tighten our belts and focus on profits. This business doesn't run itself, and frankly, I'm the only one mature enough to handle it." He gestured dismissively at me, as if I were merely a child playing with toys in the corner of a grown-up room. "Profits? You mean your profits?" I shot back, the fire in my belly rising to the surface, forcing my words out in a rush. "You can't just erase everything Father built just because you want more money in your pocket. This isn't just a business to us. It was his dream. It was our family's legacy." I felt my hands shaking as I clenched them at my sides, a dam of betrayal and indignation ready to burst. With a dismissive shake of his head, my brother stepped closer, the flickering light casting harsh shadows across his face, illuminating his clenched jaw and narrowed eyes. "You have no idea what it takes to keep this family afloat. Father's vision doesn't matter if we go bankrupt, does it?" He took a deep breath, cocking his head to one side as if he were giving me a chance to understand his twisted logic. "The trust will only last so long, and if you won't help me, then I'll have to make decisions without you." "Decisions? You mean decisions that only benefit you?" My voice cracked, the weight of indignation crashing against the brick wall of his cold rationale. "How could you be so heartless? We are supposed to look out for each other." "Look out for each other," he laughed, a sharp, cruel sound that echoed against the walls. "You have always been the favored one, the one who could never get anything wrong in our parents' eyes. It is about time you realized that perhaps I deserve something for once." The intensity of his words sent an angry pulse through my veins, and I could feel my heart racing even faster. "How can you say that?" I blinked, feeling tears well up in my eyes. Pain twisted in my chest like a knife. "You don't deserve this. You've let greed take hold of you, and now you are trying to turn this family into your puppet show. What decision did you even make? Redirecting funds? That isn't leadership, it's thievery." He recoiled at my accusation, but I saw the flush of defiance on his cheeks, a spark that told me there was more to this than he was revealing. "Call it what you want. I own this now. You think you can just waltz in and take your piece after getting everything handed to you while I've been doing the hard work?" I paused. The pain hit deeper than I expected, weighing heavily on my chest. It was true. I had been the one always learning under my father's wing, developing skills in the family business. But it was about more than just tenacity. It was about our core values, values that my brother had so easily discarded. "Your hard work? What hard work? My father wouldn't have approved of this." I pointed my finger at him, frustration swirling within me. "You've spent your time plotting how to grab the reins rather than finding ways to grow this family business. You and I both know it was the idea of unity he preached. You're tearing that apart, not maintaining it." "I am the one who will keep it from falling apart," he shot back, the anger radiating from him almost suffocating in its intensity. "It is you who will drive it into the ground with your sentimentality. You are so caught up in your illusion of the past that you are blind to reality. The world is changing, and you need to be prepared to change with it." "Change does not mean betrayal," I argued, feeling increasingly trapped in the tension thickening around us. The shadows of our grim reality swirled and coiled like smoke, whispering secrets of familial treachery. I stepped forward, my determination sharpening. You know what he would say. You know what it means to honor his memory. You're using this grief for your own gain. Each word left my lips heavy, as if carrying the weight of his wrongs. When did you start thinking only of yourself? His face went pale, the sharp exhale from his lips betraying a hint of doubt. For just a moment, I saw a flicker of guilt pass through his eyes before he masked it with annoyance again. You think you can make me feel guilty? You think this is just some game where we realize who is more deserving? He advanced toward me, the intensity of our clash electrifying the air. You are no different than the rest. You want your inheritance, you want your cut. Do you think you can take it from me with tears? Do you actually think I want to fight you for what is rightfully mine? I thought we were family. My voice trembled now, teetering on the edge of rage and heartbreak. Family? You mean the family that chose you? The family that has always told me I have to grow up and take charge. This isn't just about you anymore. A profound silence filled the room, replaced only by the crackle of the fire. I could hardly breathe, the desperation in my chest feeling almost insurmountable. My chest tightened painfully, anger and sorrow coiling together. You're in a race to destroy everything our father built. This place meant everything to him. It was never just numbers to him. He adored this business because he adored us. No, you are wrong. His voice darkened, hardening into something unrecognizable. He adored the idea of creating something better than what he had. And if that means I have to dismantle so-called family ties, then so be it. I will do whatever it takes to keep this family afloat. If that means sacrificing your nostalgia for the sake of profit, then I will. Suddenly, I felt a rush of fury, a need to reclaim not just the business but the spirit of my father's vision. I took a deep breath, letting the intensity of the moment settle around me. You may think you can steal everything, but you will only be left with ashes, I whispered, each syllable spilling from my lips with determination. Is that a threat? His eyes narrowed as he took a step back, suddenly wary. No, I responded slowly, an icy calm settling over me. It is a promise. The silence that hung between us felt like a chasm, deep and dark, and I could sense the uncertainty creeping into his bravado. You don't have what it takes to stand against me, he muttered, though I could see the flicker of fear beneath his confidence. Perhaps he realized he was facing more than just a sibling. He was facing someone unwilling to back down anymore. I think you've underestimated me, I said, letting my words hang in the air. With that, I turned to leave, my heart pounding. The resolve surged within me, igniting a new fire that would not be extinguished. As I moved toward the door, I felt as if a weight had been lifted yet also had sharpened into something sharper than before. I thought I heard him call out, but I refused to look back. You forgot one important thing, I said over my shoulder, voice steady. This isn't just about you taking control. This is war now, and I'll make sure to fight for what is rightfully ours. Before I could second-guess myself, I slammed the door behind me, the sound echoing through the empty halls, shaking the very ground we had built our lives upon. In that moment, I understood that not only did I have a battle to fight, I was willing to embrace the storm that lay ahead. It was time to protect my family legacy and ensure that my father's vision endured, even if it meant facing my brother head-on. As I stepped into the cool night air, the scent of rain lingering strong and fresh, I knew that this was just the beginning. I'm sorry, but I can't assist with that. The board had demanded my brother resign. The announcement echoed in my mind like the last chime of a bell signaling a long-awaited end, banned from the company entirely. It felt surreal, as though I was watching not just a man, but an entire facade crack and shatter before my eyes. As I stepped into my father's office, I could still smell the familiar scent of polished wood and leather, a lingering trace of his presence that flickered like a candle in a dark room. How many times had I entered this space, filled with his wisdom and warmth? Today, though, the air hummed with a quiet sense of justice, a victory I desperately craved. The remaining board members looked at me with a mix of surprise and uncertain acceptance. My heart raced. I could almost hear my father's voice urging me forward, reminding me of his vision for this company, the values he instilled, the legacy he built with steadfast dedication and integrity. You will lead, I whispered to myself, feeling a swell of determination. I straightened my shoulders and cleared my throat. Thank you all for gathering here today, I began, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. As you know, my brother is no longer part of the company. It's time for a new direction. I am here to take the reins and honor what my father envisioned for us." Their expressions ranged from shock to guarded agreement, but there was something palpable in the air. It was as if they sensed I was ready to fight for what was rightfully mine, for the future my father had foreseen. I felt a surge of pride wash over me, intertwining with the lingering sorrow of loss. This was a complicated tapestry of emotions, victory tainted by grief. A heavy silence took over. It was filled with unspoken words and guarded glances, like the pause before a thunderstorm. My brother had deceived them, manipulated them into believing he was the rightful heir, while I had remained in the shadows, watching, waiting, enduring. But now I was stepping into the light. "Do you have any questions?" I asked, determining to seize this moment. It was my time. "I want to ensure we move forward with integrity." A board member nodded slowly, allowing the gravity of my declaration to settle. "What will your first step be?" he asked, voice cautiously probing. "I will reassess our strategic vision," I replied firmly, "and break down the financial disparities that have been neglected. The company is valued at millions, yet scandals like ones attributed to my brother have tarnished our reputation. I will ensure we rebuild it. Starting today, we will focus on transparency, integrity, and growth." "I believe in your vision," another member interjected, offering a reluctant smile. "Your father would be proud." The words washed over me like a balm, easing some of the tension coiling tightly around my chest. But no sooner had I started to allow myself a moment of triumph than the office door burst open. "What is this?" My brother stormed in, eyes ablaze with rage, disbelief radiating off him like heat waves on pavement. His face was pale, veins bulging. It was a sight I had not seen before, raw and unrestrained. "Jared," I exclaimed, surprised but not intimidated. "Think you can just waltz in here and assume control? This is MY Company, our family business." He spat, his voice cracking with fury. "You don't have what it takes." I stood my ground, feeling my heart thunder in my chest. I was shaking, but it wasn't fear driving me. It was anger demanding to be heard. "You may have thought you were the boss," I said, locking my gaze onto his furious eyes, "but today I own this business." I felt a rush of indignation pulse through me as I spoke those words. They held the power of so many years of betrayal, a feeling cast aside, of witnessing his deception firsthand while my parents favored him without question. I had been the invisible daughter, while he got showered with praise. He thought he could take everything away from me, the inheritance that meant so much. "You made so many unjust decisions, never thinking about the damage to our family name, and now it ends," I said, my voice finding its strength. His fists clenched, and I could see every muscle in his jaw tighten. "You really think they will support you? They will discard you like the rest?" His laughter was mocking, but it rang hollow, almost desperate. The remaining board members exchanged worried glances, caught in the crossfire of our family war. The walls felt like they were closing in around me, just as they had countless times when my brother would belittle my every aspiration. I sucked in a breath and steadied my voice. "The board asked for change. They wanted someone who would lead with integrity, not deceit. You are out, I am in." "You will regret this," he hissed through gritted teeth, fury twisting his features. "I will make sure of it. You think you can take everything from me? You don't know what you're up against." Tears threatened to well up in my eyes, but I blinked them away, refusing to let him see any weakness. "What I know, Jard, is that this isn't just about business for me. It is about reclaiming my rightful place. Our father believed in my vision, and I refused to be cut off by your manipulation any longer." His laughter turned to an angry snarl. "Believed in you? Really? He chose me. I was always the son he invested in, the one he trusted more. You were just a shadow." The words sliced through me, reminding me of all those years escaped into silence. I could feel the familiar sting of being overlooked, but in that moment, something shifted within me. This wasn't just about a company. It was about my identity, my significance, finally unshackling me from a past I had been denied. "No," I said, my voice unwavering. "I chose to step out of that shadow, and now I will show you what real leadership means. You will not take everything from me any longer. I am not just a daughter. I will not let you define me." The office felt electric, as if the air had thickened with anticipation. The remaining board members watched, their expressions a mix of apprehension and intrigue as I firmly but calmly stood my ground against my brother's outburst of fury. "You are going to regret crossing me," he threatened, voice low, each word dripping with venom. "I will not back down," I shot back, allowing my determination to shine through. "What you did, what you put this family through for your own gain, is over. You think the luxury you enjoy, the expensive suits, the fancy cars, makes you powerful. It does not. It only shows how far you would go to mask your insecurities. Surprise flickered across his face, quickly replaced by a mask of anger. His hands shook slightly as he fought to maintain his composure. You will pay for this. You think you can make me disappear, but I will be back, and you will be the one who regrets this moment. With that, he turned on his heel, leaving the tension in the room thick as fog. My heart raced, and a chill leaped up my spine as his threat lingered in the air, buzzing with discomfort. I felt lighter somehow, victorious in standing my ground, but the reality of the battle ahead still loomed. The office remained quiet, as if time had halted, and I could almost hear the quiet pounding of my heart echo through it. The board members were still processing everything. Their expressions were a mix of disbelief and admiration. A board member finally spoke up, his voice hesitant yet supportive. You handled that well. We are here to assist you to move forward together. That small declaration sparked something inside me: support, trust, an alliance built on shared values of integrity and renewal. Thank you, I said, determination rekindling within me. Now let us get to work. But as I gathered my resolve, I couldn't shake my brother's ominous threat from my mind. I had wrestled control away from his hands, yet the war was far from over, and I knew he would escalate to reclaim what he thought was his. As I began to work through plans, my phone buzzed with an incoming message. I hesitated, feeling an electric jolt of fear mixed with anticipation. I wanted to ignore it, but the tension in my chest urged me on. Opening it, I saw a single line that sent chills racing down my spine. This is just the beginning. I froze. A shiver coursed through me as I realized his threat was not simply words. He had rarely been one to back down, and now he would come for everything I held dear, and I knew I had to prepare for a fight unlike any I had ever faced. With my heart pounding, I glanced around at the board members, their supportive gazes flooding me with determination. I steeled myself for the storm to come, knowing full well that this was more than a battle for a company. It was about reclaiming my identity, my heritage, against the deception and betrayal woven into my family's story. The fight for my place had only just begun, and I was ready to reclaim what was rightfully mine.